The Columbus Blue Jackets, the epitome of a forgotten franchise. While other franchises may have fallen on tough times after years of dominance resulting in championships or years of glory to look back fondly on, the Blue Jackets vacillate between a team that is an utter embarrassment and one that most people forget is still in the NHL. Is this the year that they can buck that trend and become a franchise that other teams might actually respect and fear?
I admit it. Last year was rough.
Sometimes a team's bad season is a catastrophe from the moment it began, and that was the case for the Columbus Blue Jackets. It was a broken down roller coaster that just collapsed into dust from the very beginning, thanks to a 9-game losing streak to start November. By the time the dust settled of the second month of the season, the Blue Jackets were 6 games under 500 and basically just bled out for the remaining 5 months of the year. A team that never won more than 2 straight games on the year, they, along with the San Jose Sharks, were the only 2 teams in the NHL to give up over 300 goals. Their power play was somehow worse than even the Penguins. They had basically nothing of value to trade away at the deadline. And let's not forget that the Blue Jackets actually added over the offseason before the 23-24 season, acquiring Ivan Provorov and Damon Severson in trades before the year, which helped bolster their lineup and added a grand total of 7 standings points from the previous year. Third overall pick and future hope of the franchise, Adam Fantilli, got hurt halfway through the season because Columbus Blue Jackets fans can never have anything good in their lives, and the few fans who remember that this franchise is still in operation laughed as they finished at the bottom of the Metropolitan Division. Again. Well, here's the good news, Jackets fans. It's actually not possible for your coaching situation to be worse than it was last year. This team was prepared to go into the year with Mike Babcock as their head coach, following his years-long exile from the NHL because of under-the-radar douchebaggery, but then he pulled the move that just about every jealous ex-girlfriend does, demanding to go through all of his players' phones to try and see which Instagram models they were hitting up in the DMs. He was swiftly fired and replaced with Pascal Vincent, a head coach with the most substitute teacher energy I have ever seen. Like, honestly, if you told me that these guys were having practices outside, and instead of doing film study, we're watching The Princess Bride for the 7th time while Pascal Vincent drank out of his special coffee mug, I would 100% believe it. Surprisingly, the Blue Jackets didn't immediately move on from him. They waited a good amount into the summer before relieving Vincent of his duties, and then did nothing for a while. It kind of looked like they might go into the year without a coach and just let the players run the show, Lord of the Flies style, I guess, which I was 100% down for, because at the very least, we end up with Elvis Merzlikins with war paint on his face and Eric Goodbrands' head on a pike. But alas, the Blue Jackets chickened out and hired Dean Avison, who is less of a substitute teacher energy than gym teacher who's being forced to teach health class energy. But don't worry, Jackets fans, this guy was entrusted to take the Wild to the heights of the playoffs, so, you know, sky's the limit, as long as the sky is the playoffs.
You're a star, you're on top. Somebody bring you some hair.
You should kill yourself.
I know it's a few years later, but it still boggles the mind that Johnny Gaudreau managed to end up in Columbus, out of all places. He is, by all measures, your best player, even though Johnny Hockey is more of a brand name than an actual star player. I mean, did we all collectively forget that this guy scored 40 goals and 115 points the year before he left Calgary? The answer is yes, because in 2 full healthy seasons with Columbus, he has scored a total of 33 goals and 134 points. Like, don't get me wrong, Johnny Gaudreau is a really good player. Now he's being asked to pair with the likes of Kirill Marchenko and Adam Fantilli, so it's no surprise that this guy's a career minus 70 in Columbus.
Oh, this guy again.
To go along with Gaudreau, the Blue Jackets bring back a ton of middling young forwards who are sure to see their development stall out over the next few years before they leave for real teams. Down the right side, they have Marchenko, Shinikov, and Voronkov in the hopes that, like Voltron, 3 mediocre Russian players can form together to become one super Russian player. Let me tell you something, as a Capitals fan, that never seems to work out for the best. Captain Boone Jenner will anchor the middle 6, though. He is a solid energy guy, and the Blue Jackets are lucky to have him for however long the Stockholm Syndrome lasts. They also have a couple of promising young forwards like Kent Johnson and Cole Sillinger, both of whom are just young and inexperienced enough that Blue Jackets fans can pin hopes on them to have an unrealistic breakout season because of that drug of a word, potential. But if you're looking for a player that you can actually put some hope on to develop this season and become a superstar, it's that first-round pick from last year, Adam Fantilli. Sure, 12 goals and 26 points in 47 games before getting injured doesn't really compare to Connor Bedard's first-year stat line, but Jesus Christ, this is Columbus. Their fans wouldn't know what to do with an elite prospect if they ever got their hands on one. Patrick Laine is also ostensibly on this team, but he'll probably be traded at some point. And honestly, it's not really a laughing matter to talk about his mental health status. I hope he gets the care that he deserves. But I do have to wonder, what does 3.5 years in Columbus do to a motherfucker? On the fourth line, you got Justin Danforth and Matthew Olivier, centered by Sean Corrali, who's telling the kids about the mystical land called the playoffs that all of them have heard so much about. The back end has a bunch of those big names that I talked about, like Zach Werenski, David Severson, and Ivan Provorov. Werenski is the one guy that I pray actually manages to find his way out of Columbus somehow. Dude has been an actual real good defenseman for years now, but you wouldn't know it because Blue Jackets games never get shown on national television, and why would they? David Juracek will also be on the back line 1 year after getting drafted in the first round, so prepare for his confidence and skills to get absolutely cooked like a hamburger. And similarly, Denton Mateychuk is going to get his first look in the NHL 2 years after he was selected 12th overall by the Jackets. Rounding out their defensive core is the cockroach known as Eric Goodbranson. He's here to steal checks and absolutely botch his defensive positioning, and he already got last month's check. In goal, Elvis has not left the building and is still between the pipes, despite the fact that he requested a trade last year. New GM Don Waddell correctly pointed out that nobody is going to take him for his stats and contract, so he will remain stuck in Blue Jackets purgatory for another year, unless Igor Shesterkin snaps a ligament or something like that. Daniil Tarasov will be backing him up, which is cool, I guess. Backup goaltender in Columbus is just like the Vice President of the United States. It doesn't matter at all.
Oh, Britta's in this?
You know, I love a good star-crossed lover story, and Sean Monahan has come back to his son, reuniting with Johnny Gaudreau here in Columbus. Man, I'm rooting for you two kids. I hope you make it work this time. Don't complain about the contract, Blue Jackets fans. You can't put a price on true love. In the draft, the Blue Jackets made out like bandits by taking advantage of Anaheim's stupidity for the second year in a row, snapping up Caden Lindstrom at pick number 4, even though I think they should have taken Ivan Demidov, and then grabbing Charlie Elick at pick number 36 after he dropped out at the end of the first round.
That's not bad.
I've said it once, and I will say it again, Zach Werenski deserves so much better than what he's gotten as a member of the Columbus Blue Jackets. This dude's gonna waste the prime of his career stuck in hockey purgatory, making good money, yes, but God, if you put him on a team like Toronto, Dallas, or Edmonton, ooh, he about to make a name for himself here. I also really liked Adam Fantilli's game going into the draft last year, so I hope that he recovers from his injury and puts up some good numbers in his sophomore campaign.
The Gambletron 2000 says the winner is Cincinnati by 200 points. Why, you worthless hunk of junk?
Sorry, Jackets fans, but it's another year of just treading water and praying to the gods that lightning strikes somehow. Maybe Adam Fantilli will turn into that dude. Maybe the Sean Monahan, Johnny Gaudreau connection will bring them back to their glory years in Calgary. But there's just so much working against this team, from the sleepwalker behind the bench in Dean Avison to the psychopath between the pipes and Merzlikins. There's just nobody on this team that I think is in a position to make a huge jump this year. And in a tough division like the Metro, you need some of them dudes. You can fire the cannons all you want this year, but it's to mark the death of another tribute, aka another one of Zach Werenski's best years, just like in the Hunger Games.
Their inability to take any top prospect and make them a solid NHLer. They failed on so many top 10 picks that it's honestly embarrassing. 1 bust happens all the time. 2, not unheard of. 3 is starting to raise some concerns. Doing it year after year is both impressive and extremely concerning. Zherdev, Leclerc, Picard, Brule, Filatov, and it feels like whenever they do make a good pick, they trade him away before they can even prove themselves in Columbus. They sold their soul to get their only playoff win in 2019, not including 2020 for obvious reasons, and they're right back to where they were for the first 9 or so years of existence.
Everyone who has come here has busted. Johnny Gaudreau, Patrick Laine, Zach Werenski, or had terrible injury luck. Never go to CBJ, convinced that Cannon hits a player and knocks them out for 9 months.
The Cannon, dude. That stupid cannon.